It's going to be vertical, so that means it's going to look like basically two parabolas up and down from one another, rather than left and right. The center is 0, 0, so there's no h and k. That's kind of a nice way to kind of ease into this. Now remember, the foci is plus or minus the c value, so we have to go down and figure out what c is before we can kind of move on from the rest of this. So it's c equals the square root of a squared plus b squared. So I can just take the 9 and add 25 to it. So 34, right? Now we're putting this on the graph, so the square root of 34 is not a very nice number. So we're just going to estimate about what that is. So it's like 5.8, right?
5.83.
Yeah, but like 5.8 on my graph versus 5.83. They're going to, I mean, really at 5 point anything is going to look pretty much the same. So, so we start our center, but then our foci, notice that one needs to go up and down, again, because the y value is changing. So we're going up and down 5.8. So this is going to be 0, 5.8, and 0, negative 5.8. I'm going to change color for my vertices just because those are going to actually be on the graph. So then my vertices are the, it's the a value, right? So we're adding that up and down from, so our a value in this case is going to be what? What's a? It's going to be 3, right? Yep.
I have a question. Why wouldn't it be horizontal if the x is bigger?
It doesn't have to do with the x being bigger this time. It's whatever one's first.
Oh.
That x being bigger thing is the, remember that's with ellipses. So yeah, we have to kind of forget that a little. It's really whatever one's first. So if the y is first, it doesn't matter which one's bigger. The good like kind of thing to bring up. So before we carried it with a was bigger than b, this time it's whatever one comes first. And again, why a no
Why
cards.
do they do that to us?
I don't know. The people who invented hyperbolas did it to us. So yeah, I don't know. So this one's going to be 0, 3, right? That's our a value? Yeah. And then 0, negative 3. So up 3, down 3. Now the transverse axis is basically, again, since it's vertical, it's the one going through the vertical way. So that's going to be x equals 0. So not a very interesting like point to know. So this will be x equals 0. This will be y equals 0. So it's just those axes, not a big deal. Now the slope of the asymptote is the thing we'll talk about right now, but we're not going to use this really much at all. Again, talking with Mr. Hatfield, it kind of is a nice like little guideline, but I was realizing how long it was taking me when I was doing my homework. So the slope of the asymptote is always the y value, the number underneath the y value over the number underneath the x value, like the square root of it. So this one would be 3 over 5. It's plus or minus 3 over 5. So I'll show you guys this one, but again, you don't have to do this. So 3 over 5, I go up 3 and over 5, up 3 over 5. I go down 3, back 5. But then I also have to reverse it. So these would just basically be like kind of guidelines for us. And I don't think it like makes a big enough deal to like change how we graph this. So I don't think they're that big of a deal. So I'm okay with you guys leaving them out. I wanted to show you guys where they came from. So what we're going to do now is we're going to draw our hyperbola, which basically looks like a parabola, but it's like we kind of use those boundary lines as to tell us if it's a little bit wider or skinnier. And so the orange is what we're really hoping for here. And so this 3/5 kind of shows us that this would be a wide graph or like a wider graph, and we'll kind of talk about that as it comes up. But if you get everything else down, I don't think that part of it's a big deal. Yeah.
Well, if we don't do the slope of asymptotal lever, then how do we know how to?
So good question. So if you don't have those purple lines drawn in, you can just kind of draw them as kind of ugly U's. It's fine. It doesn't, yeah. I'm not looking for a ton of detail there. So like, yeah, just kind of, you can make them all the same width. It's not a big deal. Now, that some of you guys, that might drive you crazy to not be like precise about that, and it's kind of up to you guys if you want to put more detail in. So let's do a couple of these with where the where the center is not 0. So again, I'm not going to write down every part of this time. I'm going to kind of try to be a little bit briefer with you on it. So it's -1, -2. That's my center. So our center of our graph. Now this one, it's the x, so I need to go out, right? Left and right. The x is first. And I'm going to go out with that a value. Do you want to do foci first or vertices first? It doesn't matter. Vertices. So if I'm doing the vertices, and I'm going to write them just so that we can kind of, or just like mention them. So I'm going to put the vertices in cream. I'm going to go left and right, but using this a value. So this determines my vertices. So I'm going to go out 1, 2, 3, out 1, 2, 3. So my vertices, I can see that from my graph rather than having to do plus or minus whatever. So this is 2, -2, and -4, -2. So there's my vertices on my graph. Switch to foci. Now the foci, we have to figure out the c value. So c on this one is kind of a nice one, I think. It's the square root of 9 plus 16. So again, I'm going to go out 5 each way. And if it's helpful to make like the foci maybe like a little X instead of having to be a coordinate point, if that like helps you to like visualize it better so you're not confused about what you're drawing on your graph, that's fine. All right, so at this point, we know where our axis is. And I'll have you guys figure out all those different pieces for some of your questions and some as much as you guys need to. At this point, we really could draw our hyperbolas. Now, I could just draw them in. Again, but if this drives you crazy, you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea if that looks right or wrong or whatever, you could think about a little bit about what the slope is. And you're gonna kind of notice that maybe I should have changed, maybe made this a little bit different. But the slope in this case, again, it's y over x. So it's going to be 4 over 3. So from the center, I would have gone up 4 and over 3. I would have gone down 4 and back 3. And then I would have done the same thing the other way. I mean, so my hyperbolas would have been a little bit like maybe wider, but I mean, this is not like a, you know, we're not worried about like brain surgery right now. Like, I mean, this is kind of like a rough drawing anyway, so long as you get them drawn in the right spot, you know, if you know these 3 points, you're probably doing pretty good. Let me do one more with you guys. So I want to show you one, again, showing you that center, how I got that flipped a lot, so that hopefully you don't do the same. And then I'll get you guys the homework, and I will, we can kind of, even though it's only 6 questions, I can shorten it if it would be Thanksgiving miracle.
Yes. Amazing.
Alright. So now, again, be careful on the center here. So the center over here was -1, -2. That was pretty straightforward. But over here, do you notice what we need to do instead? Flip them and change their signs. So like notice that x is a -4 and then it's 3. Like I said, I did that wrong on I think like 1 or 2 of mine and had to like erase everything, but so it's a big pain to notice later that your center's in the wrong spot. So knowing that to begin with, it's going to be vital here. So -4, 3, so we get our center. Then we need to do our vertex. Sounds like we did that next, so that's fine. So the vertex now though, this one's gonna be vertical. So we're gonna go up and down using again the A value, which is underneath the first one. So the A is 5 in this case. So we're gonna go up and down 5 from our center. There's our vertex, up and down 5 from our center. And then our foci needs to come from our C value, which I do not believe this is a nice C value. It's 25 plus 14, so the square root of 39. This is like 6 point something. So again, I have to go up and down 6.2 from this one. And again, if you want to make them like little X's instead, if that's helpful. Like 9.2 up here. And our slope, and if you haven't, like one of the things to notice is the slope is typically going to go up as high as your vertex and then over however much the B is. We have to do the square root of 14, which is like 3 point something. So it's going to go up 5, like over 3 point something. So if that's helpful to notice that this would be a little bit skinnier here. So then we have our U shape. So the reason I knew it was going to be skinny is because the A value is like this, the value that's first, or with the Y, is bigger than the one with the X. So it's gonna be a skinnier graph. All right, sorry, this was a lot. So, like I said, for your homework, let me see.
Yep.
Let's maybe, let's maybe just assign it odds. I mean, that's only 3 questions, but I think it'll take you guys enough time, and that's not, it's okay. If you want, you know,
And it's
and it's Thanksgiving.
so I'm thankful for my English teacher, Miss Don here.
Okay, so, but like I said, the homework took me a while, so that's why I was definitely